On March 30th, a new set of escalation contract packs for Hitman 3 were released. These contract packs were known as the 7 Deadly Sins. This escalation pack added 7 unique new escalation missions, each of them having their own twist for the player to utilize. And after playing through all 7 of these escalation contracts, I believe I finally made a good enough rating system to determine which ones I personally think are the best and which ones I personally think are the worst out of all of them. I'll start with the worst first and then get progressively better as we go on. So without further ado, let's rank Hitman 3's 7 Deadly Sins escalation contracts. Number 7. Sloth. I've sunk a lot of time into Hitman 3. Granted, not as much time as plenty of other people, but enough to have played many normal escalations and other player-made contracts. With that being said, out of these 7 escalations, I have to say that Sloth is probably the worst out of all of them by a long shot. I don't think before playing this escalation contract, I've ever raged at Hitman before. And yet, this fucking escalation contract made me rage so hard, I've had to quit the game more than once. Yes, don't get me wrong. The vitality sensor that this escalation has you work around is quite a unique concept, and for future missions, I feel like it could be utilized better. But here, it draws away from the whole atmosphere of this mission entirely, because I couldn't really focus on how you enter the mind of 47. When every 5 seconds, I'm glancing to the top left of my monitor just to see how longer I can play this goddamn escalation for. And also, I'll bring it up now, but Sloth is the only voice within this entire escalation pack that I actively screamed at. I personally found the voice actor super annoying to deal with, and just to hear him yawn and talk about how I need to lean back and taste a rest. Like, God, if sloths weren't an endangered species, I might actually have to go find one and kick one in the face. Although, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt here. It's not all negativity about this mission, as the items that drop from it are actually pretty good. The SMG that drops from this escalation is quite well rounded and functions similarly to the DAC X2, and the gold brick proximity mine I haven't used yet, but I've heard and read from other people that it is arguably one of the best sedative weapons in the entire game. So, to summarize, this is not a fun escalation. Would I play it again? Fuck no. Because frankly, there's little to no replay value to it, and I don't want to scream at my monitor again. Number 6. Lust. Oh boy, back to back for this one, aren't we? First, I'm going to start with the voice actor for this one. Despite me being harsh about the previous one and being annoying to listen to, this one, I feel, nails the point in being lust perfectly. Unfortunately, involving this escalation, there is one major overarching problem that I have with this escalation that I'm going to get out of the way. First off, I know you can't save with escalations. That's already a fair enough point, as it makes it more harder. This one, on the other hand, backfires in that sense horribly. First time I played this contract, I played over 2.5 hours trying to figure out how to get the keys alone. And after that, I failed to figure out who the secret admirer was, and I had to start all the way over from the beginning. This is punishing to the player, and it kind of sucks because as a mission, it's actually not terrible. The atmosphere is perfect, with it being a sort of party setting in the Berlin nightclub, and it does have an essence of replay value in the sense that the secret admirer is random. But all this said and done, I have to point out that this level is literally just a kill everyone except for the secret admirer and the lust herself. But yeah, a major frustration that I had during most of the gameplay was the fact that you had to go out and find keys for safes. And while I found this to be an interesting mechanic to find clues for finding the secret admirer, I found this mechanic quite frustrating at times, mainly because the keys would be in difficultly put spots, and there would be no indication as to how the fuck you are supposed to get them. But, thankfully, the mechanic of this did not really distract me from the whole aesthetic of the map entirely. Now, I'm going to get into something I lightly touched on earlier, and this ties into you not being able to save your escalation contracts. If you fail to identify the secret admirer, you basically fail the mission. No do-overs, no restarts. From last clue you have given to start from ground zero, and as far as I know, the hints to who it is are completely random, as the secret admirer could be any one of the NPCs that are at this party. I feel like you could just save for this one escalation. I could rank it higher, but as it stands, it's only good for the one playthrough you do just to get the items in the suit from it.
Number 5. Envy.
You're the better assassin.
Yes.
Just yet.
Envy.
You might just be lucky.
Let's start off with the pros of this. I love the concept of a mission having you go toe-to-toe with another rival while they're on the same map as you, going for the same contract. I feel like if done right, IOI could turn this into an actual game mode that could be enjoyed for multiplayer purposes. Kinda like Ghost Mode from Hitman 2, except this time more levels in it and less broken physics. Other than that, there isn't really much in this escalation that has much going for it. All I know is first time I did this, I got Silent Assassin suit only, got the rewards, and then I basically left it in the dust. And granted, that is summed up for most of these missions, with the exception of Lust. But honestly, out of all the other escalations in this list, I might actually go back and do this one first because it was a great experience, even though it was only against the AI. Now for the cons, in which I only found one. This escalation is too fucking easy. I literally beat this on my first try in like 3 minutes because of how easy it was.
Wow.
And there isn't much replay value because of that. Unless you want a better leaderboard score against some random guy, there isn't much of a challenge. But for being a creative and cool idea, along with having its own sense of challenge later on, despite being an easy escalation, it is still fun, better
than Sloth.
by a long shot.
Number 4. Greed.
Continuing on with our stretch of escalations that I completely forgot about, the greed enumeration takes place in Dubai and has pretty good symbolism for choice for having that take place in the world's tallest building built with the riches of oil money. Well, I do enjoy this mission. Heck, I enjoy the concept of having to pay some of your coins away in order to get items at the starting location. But the main problem here is that there's little to no scenery change at all, and I feel like I can give them some slack because having to add more gold to an already gold-plated tower would just hurt people's eyes to look at. I also don't understand why greed is a frog. Out of every animal, I'd figure frogs would be the last choice for an animal that is greedy, but hey, I'm not the one who's making the game here. Another thing to note, something I haven't touched upon, is you have to do all of these without changing your starting disguise. Meaning, the suit that you start out with is the one you have to finish with. Sometimes these suits can be bland to pretty terrible, to say the least, but I gotta say, the suit that you wear for the greed enumeration is arguably one of the best suits I think I've worn in the entire game. Might just make me do a top 10 Hitman 3 suits video, who knows. Just the way the light shines off the gold when you're not playing in a regular mission perfectly sells the name of the suit and the escalation in which you're forced to wear it in. More or less, the greed enumeration is one that you don't really have to play unless you want the unlocks for it. And if you're playing it for that reason, then go right ahead.
Number 3. Gluttony.
Oh boy, top 3 now. The Gluttony Gobble is probably one of the best atmospheres you could give to a Hitman level by having you being forced to feed a literal pig. This is personally one of the best animal symbiotes for the 7 Deadly Sins. The suit is great by giving you a cape that sways perfectly in the wind as you run. The atmosphere is narrowed perfectly with the tables in the restaurant and the markets outside being packed with food. And even the items you unlock from this are still relatively good, with one of them being a sawn-down shotgun and a sedative poison. However, there is one aspect of this mission that barely keeps it from scraping the top 2. And that one hindrance is how you complete the objectives. You have to kill specific people. Again, this is Hitman. But you have to do it in a specific area with a specific item. I cannot tell you how long I wasted my minutes trying to get some of these items. And while some of them can be easily acquired, some are just not easy to get. But unlike Lust, which punishes you if you don't get it right the first time around, you're allowed to have as much collateral damage as you want. As well as it being remotely easy, now that I think about it, to identify which items are identified by which guards. Finally, to summarize all this, the mission feels a lot like Lust, except with being an hour-long slog trying to figure out one small detail. This mission nails its premise perfectly and gives you plenty of room to make mistakes.
Number 2. Pride.
Alright, number 2 on this list. First things first, I'm going to get this out of the way. This is the best suit in the game. No one can convince me that there is a better suit in the world of Assassination or Hitman in general than this suit. It literally looks like you took a glass window and made it into a suit. But then again, this also sums up the level's theme of pride. And I'm not talking about the one they give for a month. Interestingly enough, this is one of the only escalations that I played through completely. I didn't even realize that pride was one of the 7 deadly sins until I played this escalation. Even so, the premise of this escalation is perfect. At the beginning of the level, you have to find the animal symbiote for pride, and after you find this handsome gentleman, he gives you a choice of 2 items to complete your mission on. One is usually an easy path that requires no challenge whatsoever, and he even taunts you into picking the harder one, which is... I always pick the harder one for this mission because I didn't want to be a normie. Usually he congratulates you if you pick the hard one, and every time you do, you're greeted with thunderous applause from seemingly people in your own head. This is the ideal level that shows how the embodiment of these escalations were meant to be. You're getting inside 47's own head. And I don't think any other escalation sums up that idea better than this. Another thing I'm going to touch up on here is the lighting of this map couldn't be better. It takes the already purple haze of Chongqing, China, and it makes those colors absolutely pop. Out of every escalation in this contract, this is the one that I would actually pay more money to as an actual mission of Hitman World of Assassination. Great job, IO. You get a pack on the back. But I am not done yet.
Number 1. Wrath.
Before I get into why I find this to be the best escalation out of the 7 Deadly Sins pack, I have a nice reviewer from someone on Steam who left a rather negative review that I just thought I'd like to read. Almost unanimously seen as the worst of the 7 Deadly Sins, I wanted to do it first to get over with. I didn't exactly enjoy myself. 3 sets of 3 waves of enemies rushing your base. Fail a wave, and it's back to the start of the set. Frustration is the name I would give it, not wrath. Nighttime Dartmoor is beautiful, and you don't get to enjoy it because of the challenge and restrictions. But I must admit, after cursing and sputtering and finally finishing it, I can look back with a slight fondness. You can basically either blunder through to completion, breathe a sigh of relief and never touch it again, or are forced to learn every single miniature of the level to succeed, from enemy spawns, routes and behavior, to item locations and unlocks. Call it Stockholm Syndrome, but at that final juncture of the 3rd wave of the 3rd set, It finally clicked what they were trying to do, and I actually had fun. It's a shame that you get there, you need to be a professor with tenure of this DLC. Should you buy this? If you want to have fun, no. If you want a decent challenge, no. If you want to overcome a frustrating challenge, yes. I don't understand why people hate this escalation. I'm gonna be honest, everyone that reviews this negatively, all of you are wrong. All of you do not understand how much fun this escalation is. I don't understand the hate behind this one. This is probably the best escalation I've ever played in an entire game, to the point where I would actually buy this as a standalone game. Yeah, I said that. The concept, okay, I'll give them credit on that. That one is pretty horrible. I don't think that protecting 47's body is a good idea, but just the concept of it being a wave attack simulator, that itself is a unique concept that has never been done in Hitman before. Granted, this is a kill everyone with a few extra steps, but when I compare this to all the other escalations, Sloth, Lust, Gluttony, Greed, and all the other ones, this is the only one where, well, aside from Pride, that I actually enjoyed. That's right, I hated all the others except for Pride and Wrath. I don't care what any of you are gonna say. This is the best escalation in the game. Mic drop. I didn't have a conclusion written in my script, so I guess I'll just make one out of improv. While at times kind of down, heck, more downs than ups, the Hitman 7 Deadly Sins escalation pack is actually quite fun in the end, if you accept Sloth, Lust, and pretty much all of them except for Gluttony, Pride,
Target
and
eliminated. Well done,
Wrath.
47. Don't forget to pick up the
But
voice recorder.
at the end of the day, I'm not the one who makes the game. But that's all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because it would really help out the channel making videos like this one. Alright. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.